Mm, Thank you for joining and listening in. I am going to be sharing information about Friends of Chintsa, and my name is Samantha Bailey, and I am currently the interim chair of the board of Friends of Chintsa. It's a very tiny organization. It only has one administrator, very part-time, that's paid. Everybody else is voluntary. Um, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about us and what we're doing also in connection with the virus tonight. Um, so, first up, just to really thank the Expedition Project for this opportunity. And yeah, please, if you can, remember to check out their website and also Friends of Chintsa as well. And then I'll dive into telling you a little bit about the project. So, Friends of Chintsa, which we shorten to FOC, is a small organization based in the village of Chintsa, which is the Eastern Cape of South Africa, about 45 kilometers northeast of the city of East London. And it's known as Monty by the Xhosa people. And the organization has been going for a while now and been through various iterations. And how it is operating at the moment is basically as an enabling platform for community members who want to initiate and run local projects, but they don't want to have to set up an organization with all the bureaucracy that brings. And at the same time, they want some stability to their work. So Friends of Chintsa is a registered non-profit organization as well as a public benefit organization, which means that all the finances go through normal due diligence processes, and it's also has a 100% broad-based Black economic empowerment as standing in the social responsibility category. So yeah, so it enables someone who wants to do a project in the local community to ask to join us, and the board checks out what they're wanting to do and who it's going to serve. And hi, folks, I've just launched right in. So yeah, let me know if I need to start again. Um, yeah, let me know in the comments if I need to start again. But I was just saying how Friends of Chintsa operates as a enabling platform for people who want to do projects locally, and it gives them the ability to raise funds for their projects, because it can go through Friends of Chintsa's setup, and then be able to do much more small scale projects than would otherwise be workable without going and setting up a whole organization and getting all the required permissions and that, which can take quite a while and is pretty onerous. So the main projects that are currently on the go are the Unstressed Surf School, which, as it says in its name, is a surfing project encouraging youth in the community to get into the ocean. Sometimes it's involved in helping them learn how to swim first, and then it's really getting them to enjoy the ocean that is on our doorstep here. And in the process, learn about teamwork and other soft skills as well. Another project is the Uniform Project, and that raises funds to supply local students with and learners at school with uniforms, shoes, as well as sanitary pads, the reusable kinds for the young women. And that has been going for a while, is very steady and provides yeah, just much needed support for learners in the area. There's others more sport-oriented projects. One is the Chintsa Runners, and that promotes running for physical and mental health. And it also organizes a run every year here in the area through different both wild areas and lands belonging to farmers and other local people. And those funds go towards the competition fees for locals to enter into competitive running events in different parts of the country, which often opens up new opportunities for them. And then the other big sporting group is Chintsa United, which is our local soccer team. And this is a project run by Songezo, who is their coach. And it's in a sense a sort of light mentoring of young men in the community and giving them an option to be more constructively active and hopefully less inclined towards destructive drug and alcohol type activities. And they've been going since late 2018. Last year they formally entered the main local small league in East London, and they won, which was pretty cool. And one of their players has actually been given a chance to try out for a national professional league. Of course, all of that is on pause because of the virus, but he remains hopeful. I saw him the other day and he's still hopeful. And then there's two other projects, more kid related. One is Bare Necessities, which is a group of local and international knitters who make toys for local children and create Christmas boxes to give gifts at the end of each year. And then also Jam, which is a project delivering very highly nutritious porridge powder that just gets mixed with water. And it's for feeding little children and primary school learners 5 days a week during school term. So those have been the main projects that Friends of Chintsa has been involved with. We've had an approach for one that has much more of an environmental leaning. It's the Green Coast Stewards process, but that's still in discussion. And then just recently, because of what's been happening in the world and the country, we've had the yeah, thank you. The project names are creative. We've started, this is a very long name, the Chintsa COVID Community Support Program, which the local community just calls COVID-19 for short. So just in case you're not aware of the situation in South Africa, since early March, our government started to really take the situation seriously and very quickly closed international borders and started to put other restrictions in place. And then from late March, we've been in a very significant, serious lockdown to the point of not being able to even walk or go for exercise outside. And that lasted 5 weeks until last Friday. And we're now, that was called level 5, which was regarded as the most extreme. We've now gone into level 4, where there's a little bit more movement allowed and a little bit more economic activity, but still pretty restricted. And that this could continue for a while, is the sense. And what that has done has really put a pause on most of the program activities. We're in a sense fortunate in that our government responded so quickly, and thus I just looked at the stats today, and as of yesterday, late yesterday, we had tested over 250,000 people. We have nationally just over 7,000 confirmed cases, and in the Eastern Cape 814. And then we've had 138 deaths nationally, and in the Eastern Cape 17. So in comparison to other countries, we've been relatively lucky so far, quite possibly because of the quick action of our government. And in some ways this caught, I think, a lot of South Africans by surprise, because our government has been so organized about this at a national level, and they are working so well with scientists and making really bold, strong decisions, and we're seeing collaboration across departments like we've never seen before. The the somewhat expected, if also slightly disappointing aspect is that it doesn't filter all the way through to the ground. And part of this is just because of the size of and scope of the challenge at hand, and because there's been also a lot of inefficiencies and incapacities and corruption throughout the government system. And so the Eastern Cape, our province, is regarded as not having a very good public health system. And we're seeing some of the impact of that, to the point that the National Minister a few weeks ago actually appointed one of his national people to take over the area around Port Elizabeth, the biggest city in our province, where the virus was spreading particularly rapidly, and he wasn't confident with how the Provincial Department of Health was handling it. So we have pockets of folks in the Department of Health doing really good work, but there's also a lot of inefficiencies. And so back in March, when I was learning about the virus, I realized that our community could be really vulnerable. And so I initiated a project that initially was just a couple of friends and I getting together and talking about what we could do. One of these friends is a health practitioner as well. And I thought of it would be fairly low-key, just awareness raising and figuring out different kinds of support to provide locally. And then we realized that as we had more and more volunteers join us, and the sort of the scale of the challenge locally became more apparent, that we were going to need more stability and also funding. And so I went to Friends of Chintsa board. I took myself out of the decision process and asked them if they would accept the COVID-19 project as on their platform, which they delightfully approved. And so that is currently the main project of Friends of Chintsa that has been running the last few weeks, and pretty much all of the board members are involved, all voluntarily. No one is getting paid for any of their time on this project. There's also about another 15 people in the local community involved as what we're calling health helpers, and they are going around surveying homes and getting information on folks who have medical conditions that are vulnerable to the virus and on medical treatment, which also means that they should be eating well, and also obtaining information such as, do they have access to running water and toilets, etc. We're probably about 90% of the way through doing that survey, and the information so far is both enlightening and scary. We're looking at about 60% of people not having access to running water other than communal taps, using the bush as their toilet, living anywhere from we have some shacks that are just one person in a shack. We also have some that are 6 to 9 to 12 people in a shack. So you can imagine how difficult social distancing is. And people have also been economically affected drastically. And so we initially were in the serious lockdown for 3 weeks, and then the government about 2.5 weeks in said that they were going to extend it for another week. And right around that point, the hunger kind of started to hit. And so folks started to raise funds in a variety of ways to get parcels into the community. But it turns out that's quite a tricky thing to do well, because there's lots of local political dynamics. And we have local councillor elections next year, and some individuals in the community were using food parcels as a way to basically try and garner support, voting support. And so we had some individuals who were watching this and concerned because they saw the parcels not being distributed fairly. They approached us and said, please would we consider utilizing our group of volunteers to help figure out a fairer system, and also the fact that we were doing these surveys. We we had to start the surveys all over again because we realized the initial surveys weren't oriented to helping with food parcel distribution. And we